How to talk to your spirit guides. What even is the benefit of being able to talk to my spirit guides? Well, personally, for myself, what's happened in my life is that my life became a lot easier when it came to making decisions, deciding the direction of my life. I would get a lot of inputs and a lot of other people's ways of doing things, other people's advice and suggestions. And especially in times where I was unsure of maybe who I am completely and the path I want to go. This really helped me into better understanding myself, better understanding what I need to work on for my journey, and just getting to know the uniqueness of who I am. Because when we talk about concepts such as your higher self or spirit guides, we're talking about benevolent energies which are non-physical that are here to support us. Similar to how some people have their belief in God and pray to God every day in whichever way they do. The principles shared in this video is quite similar in how you can have a conversation with God or just a benevolent energy that is here to support you. Now, these principles are very much similar to when I spoke about developing psychic ability or the basics of doing so. And the first thing I would say before you even attempt any communication with something that is non-physical, and depending on if you're clairvoyant or not, something that you can't see but maybe can sense, is to make sure you're in a good mood, you're in a good vibration, you're feeling good within yourself. When you choose to connect with something, a lot of the time, how you feel determines what you connect to. Just like the quote, misery loves company. And you see people that are, maybe they're complainers and they come around with other complainers and form this complaining circle. Similarly, there are other energies out there which are not physical, which will love to connect with you and will connect with you instead, or you will end up connecting with if you are in that mood. And so, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't got that discernment yet and you haven't developed and understood what it feels like to communicate and what the difference is between your mind suggesting things, another energy that isn't supportive suggesting things, and what it is like to speak to your spirit guides or your higher self, then I really wouldn't jump into this unless you're in a good mood, in a good vibration. So you can do things like get out in the sun, go for a walk and spend some time in nature, dance, move your body around, do some yoga, exercise. Take a salt bath will probably be a really good one because you'll cleanse your energy at the same time. And just anything that you find that gets you in a good, happy mood. Now, once we got that out of the way, the next step is to shut up inside. What this means is we need to work on silencing our mind, bringing our mind to enough quiet so that we're able to discern between our own thoughts and thoughts that might be coming in from elsewhere. And this is the most necessary step to make sure that you're not going mad or in psychosis, is to actually be able to calm your mind, still your mind, because automatically with clarity you get a lot of answers. A lot of the time when people come to me and they're unsure what to do, really they just need to get clear. In that moment, even if it's 5 seconds of clarity, it's like they know what the answer is already. So similarly, you need to work on quietening your mind in some way, shape or form. I have free meditations on my website. I've shared plenty of other things in the past. But just to give a new option, a new solution, one great way is to just focus on your breath and focus on holding your breath on the inhale, after the inhale, and then after the exhale. And slowly you'll start to notice almost like your blood pressure slowing down, your mind slowing down, because to be able to hold your breath, you can't be in an erratic ADHD state. You have to be calm, relaxed. Your energy channels start to calm down and you get into a clear mental headspace. Another great one would be triangle breathing, where you breathe in for 8 seconds, hold for 8 seconds and breathe out for 8 seconds, because that's not only taking the same effect of what I just mentioned, but it's also going to increase your energy, which will help out a lot as well. So then once you've got your mind silent enough, and please don't feel like you need to rush these first 2 steps, because just doing that in itself will make your life much better, and you may even find that you automatically start communicating. So make sure you get the first 2 steps out of the way. The next step, the third step, would be to have a very crystal clear intention, a strong intention that, hey, I want to communicate with my spirit guides. My intention is to communicate with my spirit guides. My intention is to ask my spirit guides a question. Know why you want to communicate in the first place, because in the beginning, if you just want to say, oh, let me see what happens, again, you open yourself, make yourself vulnerable to other things communicating which aren't of your best interest. So take a moment, have the crystal clear intention, hey, I want to connect with my spirit guides. And let that intention kind of just like shoot off like an arrow, like a very piercing arrow. That's how clear and strong your intent should be. And just follow that arrow. It's like you're following the arrow. You don't need to necessarily visualize it, but follow that intention to the other end, and you'll start to maybe get a sense of what it feels like when you've made that intention, what it feels like on the other end, meaning what it feels like when you've established this connection. Because what you'll start to see is that there's a certain sense or energy signature. I almost like to look at it as like a phone number, that there's a certain phone number you start to get a sense of, you start to feel, and it's your ability to notice and tune into that strongly, clearly and quickly that helps you develop this skill. And so once you've set this intention and you're on the other end and you feel like your mind's clear and you've connected with your spirit guides, for those that are clairvoyant, you'll probably be able to see something. There's many different senses, subtle senses we have, but the main one is sensing, being able to feel. So once you feel, then just ask your question. And it could be something as simple as, hey, do you have any advice for me at this moment in time on my life, or do you have any insight that I could benefit from? And so I may ask, is there anything that you want me to share extra in this video? Okay, yes. Let the viewer know that there is a lot of love and support that they can tune into, that is ready to support them, but you just need to be able to open up the doors to allow it in. They are non-intrusive. They won't try and manipulate you in any way. That's why you have to say yes and give them permission to assist you, rather than just expect that some massive divine intervention is going to come in, which will happen in extreme circumstances, but the ideal way that they would love to connect with you is a very calm, consent-based way. And so yeah, that's the kind of message they had that they were given to me to convey. Now that's another important thing to know, is that one way you know when you're talking with your guides is that it won't feel negative or scary in any way. It will feel either very neutral, very truth-based, or just very loving and encouraging and supportive. And so we've also got to be mindful that we may have certain ideologies and beliefs, and so the message often gets filtered through that. So oftentimes I've had it where I've gotten a piece of advice, I followed it, I'm like, hey, this turned out to be kind of not as accurate as I thought it would be. Accurate enough for me to progress, but I'm like, you didn't warn me about this happening. And then oftentimes I in reflection and in communication, I found that, oh, okay, I did have certain beliefs and I wasn't ready to hear certain things. So in a sense, they had to assist me in creating a situation for me to become aware of that. And again, another thing is like, hey, why even communicate in the first place? Why don't I just decide what to do and take my decisions? And a lot of that came about from what I just mentioned. which is the limitation of your mind based on beliefs that you may not even know that you have. And so oftentimes it might be the case where there's a possibility that you're thinking of taking. A lot of the time this happens to me with the work I'm trying to do online, where I know that there's this step-by-step that almost everyone does, but now and again I'll get intuition, hey, just do this instead and do that instead. It may not seem like the most practical thing in the moment, but it works out for the better. And it's important to know that when I say these spirit guides or higher self, this isn't like a separate thing that's higher than you, bigger than you, that you worship. It's just the same thing as if you would ask a friend, go to a mentor for advice or assistance for something. The analogy I like to think of is like if you imagine looking down at an ant. The ant is trying to journey from here to there. You can see the obstacles in the way. You can know that, hey, this may be the wrong direction the ant's going in right now. And so you could literally just kind of slightly turn or guide the ant to go more towards where it wants to go. Same way, these guides, our higher self has this perspective to where we're the ant, and that version of ourselves can often see what's going on, and that's where our intuition tends to come from. So when we get these intuitive insights, that's why it tends to be us just understanding the information that we're gaining from a higher or more bird's eye perspective level. And the last thing to mention is that another thing that often pops up is, hey, how do they communicate? Or when I'm trying to communicate, what do I expect? Is it words? Is it this? Is it that? Oftentimes what happens for me, it's a feeling, and that feeling is translated by me with words that I know. So I may get a feeling and I'm kind of almost intuitively putting words that match that feeling, and that creates like the sentence that is trying to be conveyed. And that's kind of why a lot of the times the guidance may become filtered by your own beliefs and what you know right now, your own limitations. Sometimes you may get visual metaphors or actual visuals of things that you might be doing or you might come across. And there's other types of things like clairaudience and things, but for me personally, it's a feeling, and that feeling gets translated, or thoughts just drop into my head, and sometimes I'll get visual metaphors or like a visual image that you know how they say a picture speaks 1,000 words, kind of like that. So that's the guide on how to speak to your spirit guides. If you're struggling and have any questions about this, let me know below. And as always, like, comment, subscribe. Let's keep a communication going, and we'll speak soon.